Welcome to the Off 199 podcast. We are your co-hosts, Jay,
Music Nerd,
and Dap.
We're just a few Miami boys who love talking about South Florida sports and want to bring it to you. So, without further ado,
Off 199 starts now.
He got a nice
Eric was
mid-range.
kind of able to unleash the best parts of his game, even though he had the lowest numbers of his career. But you saw how good of a defender he could be.
Yes.
How good of a rebound, how good of a leader.
That's where I became impressive because I never thought he could play defense in Toronto. Never.
He became one of the best pick and roll defenders ever,
really
in my
did.
opinion. Because that was really good. But all right, let's go to Dap. What do you think, Dap?
Damn, man. I'm gonna say the Heat because I'm thinking that season that Austin talked about was that same season that and it probably isn't. There was one year I think we eliminated Boston and the Bulls. Well, LeBron eliminated.
Oh no, that was the first season, 2010-11.
That was the first season. I'm probably still gonna say that.
That's an underrated playoff run, but it ended in disappointment. So a lot of people don't really think about it. But Miami was able to get to these conference finals 15 games.
So was this playoff season? Was this the one where it was LeBron against PG at the top of the key?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and he drove by easily.
Yeah.
I'm going with that.
But then he came back and hit a 35-foot three. I mean, there was just so many moments that season that kind of have these defining key like things that you'll see for years to come for us E fans. Like there's so many moments. It's just like, of course, Ray Allen's three is going to go down as one of the best shots in playoff history.
Oh my God. Yeah, I gotta see it.
Is that the same season or was that the next season?
The same season.
No, that's that season.
The same season. Okay.
Yeah, that was the season.
Yep. I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie. I turned that shit off. I was so mad. I was like,
yeah, I remember. I was like, bro, the game's not over. So I went to
like, what are you doing, bro? It's like,
I really watched that.
Boy came in screaming. Huh?
I really watched it to the end. Like me and Dad were just locked in. He was like, "Man, whatever, man. Just watch it to the end." Type stuff. Because it's like, because I was actually thinking about it during as it was going on. I was like, "Man, would we have been just thinking about like would we have been like a part of the group who like left early?" And I was like, "Nah, we would have stayed." Also, like just like
I would have left early. That's on me. I have to own that as a Heat fan. So you
I was
come with the good, come with the bad.
Then you heard me shouting in the next
and you should have been. I was disappointed in myself after it happened, but you know, hindsight's 2020. But anyways, talk about that. But yeah, that's the same season.
Yeah, I'm that season, man, because like that series, I remember they were talking about PG being top. I feel like LeBron just like shut that narrative down. We won the championship that year.
No,
go ahead.
That series, Reggie Miller was pushing that narrative. That's because Reggie Miller is an Indiana Pacer fan, so he was pushing that narrative. Don't get me wrong. PG played great in that series, but when it mattered, he was gone. He was nowhere to be found.
Yeah, LeBron was taking.
He wasn't ready yet. I guess one can argue he's still not ready.
So yeah, I'll say this season, man. I think it was great seeing LeBron showing us why he was number one. Because I feel like that series and the Boston series were really the only time we've ever seen LeBron like play close to like 100% for real, and maybe the Cleveland series too. Those are the only three times I really remember like LeBron playing like, yo, I'm
like you couldn't poke any holes in his game. It's like, oh yeah, he just absolutely like no, he shouldn't have done it. No, he did everything correctly. I understand where you come from.
Yeah, so I'll say that that year too.
What do you think, Josh?
I alluded to it earlier. I feel like that 2015-2016 Cavs team. And this is also me putting my foot in my mouth, 8-9 years later.
Yeah.
But honestly, with that playoff run and coming back 3-1 down, so at the outset of the playoffs, at the outset of the season, everybody's like the Warriors are going to do something. It was the Warriors show.
Yeah,
this was the Warriors show.
Completely agree with you on that.
The Cavaliers were playing second fiddle, and that's with the best player arguably in the world, and they had lost the previous year, and so you're already feeling like you're not gonna make it happen again. It's a better team, right? You're 73-9 at this point, and guess what? You're down 3-1. So one, you're number one in the East, but as we said earlier, that doesn't mean a lot in the scheme of things. But to be the best player in the world, but still the underdog, and probably embracing some of that villainous traits that he learned from Miami. To me, that I think that created a very potent, special moment for him delivering Cleveland's first championship, overcoming the 3-1 deficit, beating the greatest statistical team ever. And again, I think people are still eating because of that, especially Cleveland. Cleveland is definitely in a better place.
That is 100% true.
Chris
That's
Thompson got a
100% true.
Kardashian
But there's
out of it,
one
so,
knock.
you know,
There's
there's that.
one knock. There's one knock. And this is the only. This Austin made the point why my knock for that season. If Draymond doesn't get ejected,
you're right.
They win.
You're right.
They win that
But
series in
the-
5.
but the
they
cards-
win
the
that series in
cards fall.
5.
You're right. But
All right,
the cards fall where they fall.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. We could be a lot of shit with they way that series. Like, respect for them still pulling it out. It's still an amazing feat. A lot of shit with they way that series.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm in agreement.
They way that series.
I'm not in disagreement.
It was
you
destiny.
ain't gonna
like,
hear me.
It was legit destiny. Like, and that's cool. Like, cause that's sport right there.
You're
No,
not
I-
gonna hear me disagree.
And it doesn't take
seem
away from
like
it.
it was
take away from
money. Somebody said, "Fuck Golden State. We're gonna rig
100%.
basketball,
Only
and
thing-
y'all are
I
not
didn't say-
winning."
I didn't say what people like to like
Jordan
acknowledge.
came down and said, "I will pay X amount of money for Golden State not to win." And
You're
I'm
not-
a LeBron fan. I like LeBron.
I appreciate you.
They
Hey,
had
I
no
appreciate you for
business
acknowledging-
winning.
I appreciate you for acknowledging that, because I just hate when like Braun fans they love to acknowledge shit that goes wrong for him, but hate to bring it when shit goes right for him. So
You're not gonna hear me disagree. You're not gonna hear me disagree. Again, this is after being humbled by years of just success from players that I don't like and don't want to win. Anyways,
for sure, I understand that.
so for me, what I think is the more compelling battle for me is what that second and third place team is. I actually am probably going to give it to the Celtics.
07-08?
Yes, because that it was like it had to be done that year. If it didn't get done that year,
I agree.
who knows what could have happened. But this was the first year that they put it all together. They're like, all right, let's see if we can go win one. And I felt like there were a ton of people outside of Miami that became Boston Celtics fans that year, just because it was just very exciting to watch.
I respected the hell out of the Celtics. I actually wanted them to win that series because I'm not a big fan of the Lakers. So
yeah,
I actually wasn't.
The problem I have with Paul Pierce is because he literally won't let Dwayne Wade be great. So that's my issue with Paul Pierce.
I just don't like
Paul Pierce is a whole.
Richard Jefferson cooked him one time, and it's been over for him ever since. Dog. y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, Paul, go sit down, bro. You're not as good as you think you are, bro. They call you the truth.
Go ahead, AJ.
You ain't the truth. You're not
it's
the
just
truth.
like
I know.
I say how, because like I do feel like second. Well, not second. So second or third is the 08 Boston series. I just hate how they won't shut the fuck up about it. That. No, it's been ridiculous.
That's the championship that goes miles, man. That will take you wherever you want.
And again,
to, whatever
they
conversation
as well. They really underachieved that. Like,
why? Because they only got one championship out of it.
Yeah, them only having one championship is crazy.
Well, in my opinion,
again, but it had to be that year. It had to.
It had to be.
The stars were aligning, and it had to happen. They were
granted, they were still maybe in their peak or whatever you want to say, but you could consider that they were in the back end of their peak. So that next season, them being back to the playoffs, I was like, okay, you guys are lucky to be here, in my opinion. And then
he spent half the season injured that season, right?
Exactly.
I think y'all beat him in the second round.
Was showing.
I do agree that last year, that the year the Celtics won it was probably KG's last prime year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that. Like,
and
to
you
me,
got
like, whenever you have like a major injury, that's when I feel like, okay, yeah, you're probably not in your prime anymore. Like, in terms of like, continued like consistent production, you're probably not in your prime anymore. And that was probably KG's last year of his prime. So
and you got to look at how they went. They took the Cavaliers to 7 games.
For sure.
Yeah.
That was
and
no regard for human life series. I remember that.
Yeah. Yes, and then they had
that dunk was crazy.
Wait,
and then
are we
they
talking
had
about 07, 08?
No.
yeah 07 08.
This 07 08
You
Cavs.
said the Cavs took them to game 7?
The Cavs took them to 7.
Actually,
7 games.
Actually, no. I'm gonna put that third because a lot of series went too far. Like, I think like they first round series went 7 games too.
Yeah, against the Hawks, they went 7.
Yo, that's nah.
And then they beat the Pistons in 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals.
That don't count to you.
It's like it counts, but it's like, bro, like you're the number 1 seed, have one like the best records ever.
You're right.
And you're going 7 games versus an 8 seed. Because like
get them together, Jack, man. Get them
like
together, bro.
Because it's like it has to be dominance, you know what I'm saying? Like the Cavaliers and the Heat, those years we're talking about, they dominated the East. Like they really dominated.
To compare, Cleveland won their first 10 games of that playoff run. Miami won 9 of their first 10 in their playoff run. So to compare,
yeah, it's my fault. Like they definitely third or fourth because that's crazy. I remember that shit. That's crazy to me.
All right. So Jay, what do you think?
I'm gonna go out and I guess I'll veer off the road a little bit. Just looking at things like I think I'm kind of biased because this is when I actually fell in love with basketball for real. The 05-06 season.
Go ahead. You know, started. Go ahead.
Look, because when the Miami Heat beating the Mavericks in 6 in the finals, but also beating the Detroit Pistons at the height of their powers in the conference finals of 6.
That was the best record-wise in Detroit season during that 8-season run. I will say
they were the best they ever were.
What was Detroit's record? What was Detroit's record?
67 and 15.
Huh?
67 and 15.
Damn,
64 and 18. My bad. 64 and 18. Yeah, I think they only had one team that won over 60 games in that run. And that was the team.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, this is when Ben was Defensive Player of the Year. I just remember those scenes from those teams where Dwayne Wade was going behind the back of people and driving into Shaq. Like it was just a good time, bro. Like, I remember that time. It's like I just love that season. I think
y'all had James Posey. Y'all had
Gary Payton, Alonzo Mourning, Jason Williams,
White Chocolate.
Y'all low-key had a bunch of talent on that team now.
Yeah, we did.
They're in the latest stage of their career.
I can't deny.
There was a shit ton of talent on that team.
But that
Alonzo Mourning was the backup center. Like, come on.
Yeah, but this is post kidney.
All right, calm down here. Them niggas.
That's not 25, 10, 5 blocks a game of Alonzo Mourning. That's 13 points, 5 rebounds, a couple blocks.
That's one kidney.
The one that got baptized by Vince Carter, Alonzo Mourning. That's a different Alonzo Mourning than the superstar we were.
I remember that baptism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. But Miami beat the Nets in that series 4 games to 1.
That season.
But yeah, I think
that was a good season. That was a really good season. I watched a lot of basketball that season.
One thing I'm surprised no one talked about that Raptors season though.
Man, fuck that.
I'm not.
That's an underrated great playoff run though. When you look at, in my opinion, when you go to that 7, when you talk about the only game that's ever been decided by a buzzer beating
that was the stars aligning. That was the stars aligning for the Raptors.
That was,
but you know why I won't talk about that.
Never before had a buzzer beating shot. That's one of the most iconic shots in history.
It's all about the bounce of the ball.
You know what?
And then also, Anna torn Achilles, but that's kind of how it goes too. That's how.
If you want to talk about entertainment standpoint, yes, that was probably the most entertaining playoff run, maybe. But like, it wasn't particularly great.
Do you know why I won't talk about that playoff run? Because that playoff run was brought to you by none other than LeBron James himself, who went to the LA Lakers. And he owns the Raptors and whatever it don't matter. The man could be playing.
I'm not gonna sit here and say like Kawhi wouldn't have something to say about that if LeBron. I mean, if LeBron was still in the East and Kawhi was in the East at the same time.
All I'm saying is he made them all look like some AAU scrubs out there. Every player.
That's because they were.
They were until that fateful.
Nah, nah,
No,
no.
I hate Toronto.
Nah, DeMar DeRozan saying what he said after they lost was the most pussiest shit I've ever heard from an NBA
What you
player.
say again?
If we had LeBron on our team, we would.
not Demar.
It was.
Demar, nah, man, you a blood dog.
Nah, that's crazy. He wasn't acting like it. He was not acting like it, bro. That was one of the most pussiest
I
things
felt
ever
like this is why I hate Toronto. Because one, I think Toronto thinks they're better than they think they are, and they walk around asking for respect instead of letting their game show it. Now, I'll give respect to Pascal all fucking day. He is fucking fantastic. He is underrated. Scotty Barnes, Florida State prodigy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Give it up to him.
We like him.
Yo, you know what's crazy? I saw him play at Hollandale High School in the 8th grade. And
wow.
And I really and me and my
You
dad.
feel old now?
Yeah, I feel old a little bit because like the nigga I saw in the 8th grade while I was working a tournament is in the NBA. Is about to be in his 3rd year in the NBA now.
Wow.
And so it's like just watching nigga just grow up like that is crazy. But yeah, go ahead, my fault.
No, like I just wanted to mention it, but yeah, I gotta give that point. But all right, so we're giving a point system for this one. Yeah,
they got lucky.
This one.
There's a reason why Kawhi stayed.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely.
He knew.
I think based on the arguments that we have, I do think we have to give Miami the 5-pointer on that one, Cleveland the 4-point with that.
Yeah, I'm cool with
and
that.
then, but what's the interesting one here is the 3rd point. Do we want to give that to the Boston season?
I'll give it to Boston.
What's the other option?
None.
The other option
Toronto.
is the Detroit Pistons 03-04 season, where they beat that super team from the Lakers. The Pistons 03-04 season.
That was a good run.
That was a good run, but I do feel like the Boston one was better, I guess. But I mean, that was a really good one. So
I
that's
think
Boston like the better overall year.
Yeah, we'll give it to Boston.
Y'all agree with that?
Oh,
I feel like
Boston. Yeah.
I feel
I'm
like,
Boston.
I'm okay with that.
I feel like Jackie McMullen, who's that sports writer for Boston, just throwing all the Boston facts out there and seeing where it lands out.
Oh my god,
Boston media, Boston media, biased media,
for sure.
It's crazy.
It's
they
wild.
don't even try. They don't even try, man. Like they don't even try.
The Pats, we're the best. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
All right, so heading into our final category, the standing set is this: Miami has 17 points, Boston has 12, Cleveland has 11, and Detroit has 8. No one else has a single point. So
we know the top two.
I kind of had a feeling they would come down to these 4 teams, though. I mean, these are the only teams that have won a championship. So, or besides,
definitely going into this, I didn't think there was going to be any other. I think those were the only the legit only 3 choices that we were going to have. So, I'm kind of cool with it.
I thought so too. But still, it's interesting to have this conversation. And so, but also one thing, I guess we didn't even talk about the Milwaukee run but then again, I feel like that Milwaukee run is tainted because it came in a season where a couple teams only have literally a few weeks to get prepared for that season. That doesn't take it away from it. A championship is a championship. Hard is hard. But for me, it's kind of like in the seasons where they've had the same amount of time to recuperate, they've been bounced in the playoffs for the Eastern Conference Finals the last 4 years. So
and when you think about it,
at the same time, the Bucks have their own injuries to deal with as well. So I can't really
give you that.
Especially last year.
That's true. That is true, but I think that is the year, the one that won their finals is the year that Antetokounmpo, Giannis has played his best basketball.
Nah, 100%.
Really?
He was phenomenal.
Because if you remember, Phil and Josh, I think we all had this conversation. I had the conversation with y'all the year before. I said I said he'll never win one because his basketball IQ is not high enough. That was my exact statement. That's what I said. And then in that playoff run, you finally saw him making drives to look to pass instead of just looking to score. Because all he would do is just run down the lane and just try to yam it. You know what I mean? He finally,
like James Harden noted.
I completely agree with you on that because he started trusting Drew Holiday. I think I think that was the difference on the team, Drew Holiday. But he also started trusting Chris Middleton.
Exactly.
Chris Middleton had a great playoff run.
He had a phenomenal playoff run, and Giannis actually had assists. Giannis was actually he was creating plays for other people. Like, he was elevating his team around him, and he had never done that before, where it was just him running and jumping and just being Giannis and blocking shots and all that stuff. I felt like he finally, I feel like he finally stepped up his IQ basketball, at least in that playoff run that they went in. Now, the following years, I don't necessarily think that was true. So is it a glitch in the system? I don't know.
Well, here's what I'm observing, because I think Giannis was special that playoff run, but I think Giannis is just special, period. And so I think that year, to Phil's point, was an off year, because when you think about it, the Phoenix Suns haven't been back either, and they were the contenders in that. So I feel like there's a lot of weird anomalies that came from that year.
I mean, the Hawks went to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Holiday, yes, that's true.
That was a glitch.
Oh, and also, to give it even more credit, the Bucks came down from 0-2 against the Suns and ended up winning. So and
like I said,
they won 4 straight. They won 4 straight, and Giannis had to put up that 50 burger in that final game. So that was special.
Like the way he scored, because like I was like the spaces that I'd be in where like they be calling Giannis, running dunk man or whatever like that, because I did like a lot of Harden fans or whatever like that. The way he scored in that finals game, he was giving you everything. He was giving you post game, assisting, hit 17 of his free. You literally could not tell him shit. You couldn't say shit about that run, because he didn't.
The man was like, he was like, I'm going to bring a championship to this city. That's what I'm going to do, and that's what he did. And I have to agree.
Yeah, and that playoff run also was a good point. He had a legitimate post game. Where has that been?
It's gone.
How long ago?
He's trying to prolong his career.
I mean, that's how you prolong.
You look big. Get your ass down there and bang.
I mean, but also too, let's be real. Like, his legacy is kind of confirmed already. He brought a championship to Milwaukee. Whoever thought that was going to happen? So
whoa. How is it confirmed?
Especially after hearing what he said after the Miami series, that diatribe about not failing and everything like that, and then most of the NBA actually applauding what he said. I don't think that man can really do anything wrong.
They really ate that bullshit up.
Because you know what? Look, he failed. He played most of that series. He failed. I'm sorry. Milwaukee had no. And me, of course, I love Miami. This is a Miami podcast. Milwaukee had no business losing in 5 games to that Miami Heat team.
Not even in 7, bro. In 5. In 5.
In 5. They lost 2 to 3 games at home. At 5.
Yep.
So,
but go ahead, Dad. He was about to say something.
No, this all I'm gonna say. Why when it comes to everybody else, we give them the okay to be sorry, but when it's LeBron, it's like we choke, bro.
Oh,
there is no way that Greek Freak is solidified or cemented with 1 championship.
I mean,
I think when you say Giannis' legacy is solidified, we're not saying he has the same legacy as LeBron, though.
What legacy he got?
LeBron is a whole different level. LeBron's a whole different level.
LeBron.
Like the only people you can talk about when it comes to LeBron, their names are Wilt, their names are Kareem, their names are Michael, their names are that. Yeah, Giannis is not up there.
So KD not up there either, right?
No.
KD's
not up there either.
He's not up there.
KD's not up there either.
His legacy is confirmed too.
LeBron is in rarefied air.
You see, Darren, I know.
I say it's confirmed because for me, when you say legacy confirmed, it means no matter what they do with the rest of their career, my opinion of them won't change. Like if KD gets another ring, my opinion or the validation of who he is as a player won't change. You still went and jumped teams to get rings.
That's
Giannis, you're a big, you're great, you could do all this. You are a physical specimen. You are physically intimidating, and that's how you play the game of basketball. No matter how many more championships you get, my opinion of you will not change. How I view you will not change.
I got a question. All right. You have a big problem with KD. Why do you have such a then why do you like celebrate LeBron then?
Why do I have such a okay? So that's fair. I don't have a big problem with Kevin Durant.
I have a problem with KD.
The problem I
That-
have with
wait,
Kevin
that
Durant
does, but we'll get
is
to
that he acts like, oh, okay. Well, I have a problem with Kevin Durant. He acts like a bitch about it. LeBron, for the most part, has owned it. Kevin Durant acts like a little baby about it. LeBron's like, yeah, I'm doing this. You don't like it, whatever. KD's like, well, how come just because I went to the Warriors, people act like all the hard work I put in the gym doesn't count or doesn't attest to anything? I was just tired of being in fucking Oklahoma City. Bro, you sound like a bitch. Just accept what it is. You didn't want to be there. You wanted to go somewhere where it was a tad bit easier. So you did. And that's that. LeBron at least had the veil of being like, oh, I want to play with some of my best friends. I never went to college, blah, 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 blah. I didn't necessarily buy it at the time, but LeBron James also made it right by going back. He also made it right by going back.
I feel
because
and me
Kevin Durant failed and doesn't own his failures. If that makes
sense. Go ahead, AJ.
Only thing with me about
and then what's up there? Then we have that.
It's like you're definitely correct that him going back to Cleveland win that shit, it kind of people don't really get on him about Miami anymore. And until Kevin Durant does like a similar thing, because it kind of is like confirmed that he'll never do it because now he's in Phoenix now with fucking Devin Booker and Bradley Beal.
Exactly. Now he's trying to just team up again.
Yeah, for sure. But the only thing that pissed me off about LeBron is that like they asked him about super teams, right? This motherfucker says, I've never been on a super team, and then sipped his cup. I was like, all right.
I think that's the
I don't think Miami was a super
what?
I don't think LeBron.
What? Hold on. That how is that super team?
All right, go ahead, Dad.
You look at the team.
I have to explain that.
So hold on, let me get y'all the full clip. So one,
okay,
I love Kevin Durant. That's why I'm so hard on him on this. Because like I said, I've never seen the best scorer before KD was literally Melo. And what KD could do, we've never seen no one really do. So the reason why it's different, one,
the man's a 7-foot gazelle who can run like a point guard. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
exactly. So one, when LeBron went to the Heat, they were not the best team the year before. Two, his second best player, D Wade. Let's keep it real, bro. D Wade was at like 70%, bro. The knees was bad.
No. That first half.
No, not that first year. Not that first year.
That first year he was going.
That first year he was the second best player in the conference.
The second year, I get this.
Trip, you bugging.
Dwayne Wade. Okay.
Look,
Dwayne Wade was the second best player.
Wherever D Wade was, I bet I own everything. I bet Steph Curry was further.
True. Yeah.
Okay.
Player in the NBA.
Okay, you got an argument. You have an argument.
Player in the NBA.
There's an argument there, but Dwayne Wade was at the height of it. Was really at the height of his powers. He was only a season away from averaging 30, doing something no one else in the NBA had ever done.
That's a super team, dog.
Yeah,
that's not a super. That's two players.
500 assists.
How this is not a super team?
Whoa. Are you arguing that
Warriors
the
who had the
2013
greatest team assembled in? If Miami was a super team,
nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that's not a super team.
There is a difference between Durant joining a 7-3-9 team than LeBron forming his team with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. Yes, I'll give you that. But Dwayne, like, if you're talking about the levels of Dwayne Wade and Steph Curry,
I feel like it's the same shit, but it's different degrees.
I think one led to another.
If the Heat went 73-9,
exactly. One led to the other.
No, I feel like
Durant definitely took it to the 10th power.
Yes.
I feel like it's the same.
All right, first let's let that finish. I still got to jump on this.
So like I said, number one, you guys could say D Wade was not at the top of his game. That's all I'm gonna say. He was good, but he wasn't where Klay Thompson was at the time, bro. There wasn't no Splash Brothers, whatever. Two, when you look at it, bro, look at the team. It was 73-9. KD was one game away from the finals. All KD did was eliminate the competition. You could have put literally any top 30 player on the Warriors and they would have won.
Yeah.
Any player, Chris Middleton, you could have put, they would have won. If you put LeBron, they damn sure would have won. If you put D Booker, they would have won. If you put Trae Young, they would have. It didn't matter who you put there. And then now when you look at it, right?
I don't think they really have put anybody.
Wait, hold on. Now look at the after effect. Look at the after effect. KD has not done a damn thing.
True.
LeBron has.
I mean, tearing his Achilles
That's
definitely
all
out
I'm saying.
of his for the trajectory of his career. I think he was on his way to do what LeBron did in Cleveland, on his way to the Nets, but he tore his Achilles, and that's just the way.
Leadership wise, KD.
He also remember he was inches away from
eliminating that Bucks team.
Eliminating that Bucks team.
Just unlucky. I think
it's unlucky. And again, not to delegitimize that Bucks team.
Real quick, let's pause right there. If it was LeBron, what would y'all say?
About what?
Well, about what you said about KD. He was just close to eliminating. If it was LeBron, y'all wouldn't give him that.
They already do that.
Y'all would say, "Oh, nah, bro, LeBron need to get it done."
No. Here's my perspective.
Nigga said about LeBron that was the greatest sweep they ever seen, and nigga didn't win.
Yeah, that's
they
true.
Already said that about LeBron.
We said it one more time, Boston.
No, they already said that about LeBron when it comes to when he loses, they try to make it the best loss. Yo, he got swept by the Nuggets, and it was like that was the greatest sweep I've ever seen. I think.
Well, no, that was a terrible sweep. Him dragging that shitty ass Cleveland team and losing to Golden State, that was the best losing team performance I've ever seen.
That was the greatest sweep I've ever. That was the greatest sweep performance I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was all four of those games were competitive. He just didn't have the ball at the end of the series. I mean, hey, I'll give him that shit all day.
No, because my point is they already do that shit with LeBron. So it's like,
I mean, you're right. I'm just saying, if there's a suit that I'm finna pick, it's finna be that one.
He definitely carried them niggas.
Dap, let me tell you this, because to me, the perspective I have is what are the ideas about the players that we're talking about. And to Phil's credit, he was like, oh, there's only a few people that we're going to mention in the same breath as Bron. That's Wilt.
For sure.
That's Kareem.
He's rarefied air.
Michael. Right. Now,
Magic too. I'll put Magic there too.
I think Magic's there. To me, that's T-Mac. That's like special. That's like special.
Wait, what?
That's like special. I'm just playing.
Yeah, he's an Orlando fan.
It's the Orlando. That's a special place to be, right? So when I think of KD, and so I'm gonna judge LeBron differently because I'm judging him according to how I would judge critically and harshly those other people if I was alive watching them play. When it comes to KD, I don't have that same energy towards him because I think he's a bit of a different era in the sense that he occupies a different personality to the game, a different space to the game.
Yeah,
he was drafted later, but like a different generation of ball player. And so I'm judging him essentially by what he gives me. He gives me a lot of excuses. He gives me also a lot of buckets and a lot of trades, a lot of force outs, a lot of conflict. And so I'm given what he's giving. I can't put him respectably. I can't put him in that same echelon of other players. But I can say his legacy has been legitimized through the championships that he's won, through the work that he's done and the way that he has scored. But like, it's not going to be in the same breath as like we put Bron. Go ahead.
Because I love KD, I really do. And to me, I don't put down the championships like other people do. Because at the end of the day,
I don't either.
At the end of the day, on the court with in a series where he was on the court with LeBron, Steph, Kyrie, he was still the best player on the court. He was. Yeah. That's the reality of it.
That's a fact. Yeah,
he was. So it's like I don't
doubt series that. He was.
Because me personally, the 2017 series, that was probably the best collection of talent ever, almost maybe ever on the back.
In a finals, yeah.
In a finals,
yeah.
That's why I don't really like.
I totally agree with that.
That's why I like when people say it was such like a.
As much as 9 Hall of Famers on that.
Yeah,
in that series.
Yo, niggas only said it was like a bad matchup when the game started to get played. When like during the season, niggas were still saying the Cavs can beat the Warriors even with KD.
Oh, really?
Hey man, come on, y'all know that was a lie, bro. Like, let's stop.
No, hey,
Let's look at it for real.
Go get them.
Niggas cap as well.
Cavaliers went 12-2 on their way to that series.
When the Cavs won that,
Warriors went 12-0.
Niggas
Go
was
ahead.
going crazy. Niggas was going. They still, we can still beat them. Like they get, like we got them. We got them. Like we in their head. We mental block. This, that, the third.
Hey,
And, like,
Richard
before the
Jefferson did say
matchup
that
came,
though. He
niggas was
did.
still niggas was still picking the Cavaliers when it was check ball and niggas started to play. That's when niggas was like, man, that's not fair. And to me, like me personally, I feel
check
like,
ball.
I feel like that's bullshit. Like you got to give credit. If you thought the Cavaliers were going to win, and you changed your opinion when you saw the shit played, I feel like that's bullshit because you thought the Cavaliers were going to win that series, and because you were wrong, you took that shit back and been like, no, that shit don't count. It does count, and Kevin Durant was the best player on the floor. So
Austin is right. The narrative around that series was going to be a lot closer than that. But the people I talked to, the people I'm friends with, we all knew what was going to happen in that series.
I knew.
We all knew the Warriors were going to win that series, probably 4 or 5.
Definitively.
Yeah, definitively. They were a much better team. Now, Richard Jefferson tried to push it like, hey, don't let us get one. Hey, we know we in their heads. We about to come back. We're going to come back from 3-0. And then they lost the next game. So,
I wish you could go back in time and KD and LeBron switch because I know a lot of people would not give LeBron the same level of respect that KD would get from it. That's all I'd say.
So what? Dad, real quick, what do you mean by switch? Do you mean switch?
No. Because what Austin was just saying, if I'm understanding right, because I am a little slow, is people really were saying that Cleveland had a chance to win. I'm looking at all 4-5 of y'all, and I'm like, y'all damn sure know. We all knew as soon as KD signed, we knew he wasn't gonna win.
I know, but I'm saying the narrative around the series was different because the narrative around that series was that Cleveland could win because they had Kyrie and Kevin Love.
That narrative was for the entertainment purpose.
Yeah,
that's
true. But it was the prevailing. Yeah,
as soon as KD signed, Stephen A. said, "Damn, the season over." We all knew the season was over, bro.
Yeah, we all said that.
I understand what you're saying, but
so
niggas.
That's all I'm saying.
Niggas actually thought that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I knew, you knew, we all knew. But a lot of niggas thought that, and those same niggas who thought that shit say that shit was unfair. And I hate the switch up. I hate the hypocrisy. That's just me and my personal opinion on it. Cause I knew. Cause me personally, like, cause I'm a KD fan. I still am. I feel like that was a period that like people like the knock on KD is that he's never been the best player in the world. I disagree with that. I feel like there was a period where he was the best player in the world.
No, there are a couple seasons here.
Yeah, say that because he's never been a great defender.
When was he the best player in the world?
He's been a good enough defender because of his size.
He's been the best scorer on the world a few years in a row. Best player?
The best scorer?
I think he's been the best scorer.
I think he was a great defender.
I think he's been the best scorer in the world since like 2009, since Kobe fell off a little bit, basically.
I'll give you Kevin Durant plays good team defense. Kevin Durant ain't sitting there locking nobody down, though.
He's not the go-to.
Me personally,
don't confuse him being long with him locking someone down.
I'm a Steph fan. Like, that's like my main player. I used to watch him. I've seen him put Kawhi in prison. I've seen him put PG in prison. So it's like,
wait.
He has the ability to do it.
At this point in Kawhi's career, who is he? That is a good point.
I'm talking about. No. He's not a great defender now.
Hey, when Kawhi started working with Kobe, that's when everybody was starting like, oh, Kawhi could be this. But before Kawhi got hurt this postseason, Kawhi was one of the best players in the world right now.
I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about back then. Now he's not good. Like, now he's not a great defender. I feel like he's still good, but he's not great anymore. But I feel like when he was in Golden State, he was a great defender.
Because he had behind him.
There's too much defense on that team. There's too much defense on that team.
Yeah,
we know what time it
was. You had Draymond backing you.
You had Draymond. You had Clay. You still move. You had Iggy. There's too much defense on that team.
You can match.
Yeah, and so
you can match it.
John Livingston.
All right. By that same logic, is Jrue Holiday a good defender?
Yes.
Jrue Holiday plays on ball. Yes.
Stop. He has Giannis back there. He has Brook Lopez backing him up.
But he plays on ball. I'm sorry. Jrue signs up to play your best player night in, night out.
Yeah, man.
Kevin Durant don't do that.
Bro, he was back then. He was Golden State rim protector.
Cool.
KD.
Kevin Durant.
Oh,
No,
no.
Austin
No,
is not
they had
wrong.
Cavani.
Austin's not
not
wrong.
wrong,
They had-
but
Austin is not wrong.
They didn't have Festus Ezeli that year. That must have been earlier.
They had
Earlier.
they had Festus Ezeli like
Festus
one.
Ezeli never
They
played
had
with
Festus
KD.
Ezeli maybe one of those
That-
years,
Did they have
didn't,
but he
David
really
West one of
wasn't.
those
It was
years?
KD. But that's the thing. That's how the defense fed. Because
Hey,
he had Clay,
but
yeah,
I think-
Draymond who was able to play on the cross. That's how
Yeah.
that's it. He got a lot
I'll
of
give
blocks.
you he was their best rim protector. But let's be honest, Golden State ain't ever up there and block shots. So
Well, no.
that statement's null and void to me.
I'm not gonna lie, Nick.
Rim protector's
Like,
rim protector.
Like, come on.
all right, Nick. It's because you're a rim protector doesn't mean you get a lot of blocks. Bam averages like 0.1 a game or 0.9 a game, and he's
Bam, that's a valid point as far as stats are concerned. That's a valid.
Don't bring up stats. I'm telling you,
But
he was the
Bam also plays center. Kevin Durant is playing what? Small forward. Occasionally plays power
Actually, he
forward.
actually played a
Bam.
lot of forward.
Bam.
He played a lot of forward with that team too.
in their small lineups. He
He played
played
the
power
power.
forward type shit.
Okay.
And Draymond plays center.
On-ball defending too.
That's
So
what
I'll
I'm
give that-
saying. That's why when you ask me, Kevin Durant's not on ball. He's not on ball. That's why I say he's a good
I'm
team
with it.
defender.
I'm
He
with
doesn't
it.
play
I'm with
on
it.
ball. That's
Okay,
why I
all right.
give Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday plays
like-
on ball.
Cool,
You
cool,
must
cool.
not seen Kevin get crisscrossed up with them long old feet, boy.
Nah, 100%.
Hey, bro. Like,
No, yo, truly great defenders are gonna be in some fucking highlights because they're actually trying on defense.
well, that is true. Are you now arguing that he's a truly great defender, or is that just a point?
No, at that point, probably he tried. I think like his best defensive year to me was the first year in Golden State because I feel like he was totally locked in to everything that they were doing. The other
Yeah.
years, I feel like he stopped trying as much. But that one year, I feel like he was phenomenal on that end because he was locked into everything. He was there on the
Okay.
back. He was their rim protector. Like so I'm not trying to gas him like that because I don't feel like he's done that ever since. But
Well, if he's a good for defender, that means
Yeah.
LeBron's an elite defender. Damn,
Oh no, but no,
Said he like-
LeBron. That's the thing though.
LeBron be
You talk
blocking
about that
shit for real.
during those years. LeBron was there's a
Yeah,
years
yeah.
that LeBron was one of the best defenders on the planet.
I mean,
No,
We
there
talking
was a
about
few
that.
years he's the best
He was
defender on the
good.
planet. Get that
I'm
man his
talking-
flowers. There's more than 1 year LeBron James is the best defender on the
Best defender
earth.
on the planet.
No,
Why-
yeah.
and
I
this is a
feel like-
podcast for another time.
We gotta get back on topic.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fair.
That's
All
a
right,
good
we have to-
30-minute
we do have
chunk
to
that we
finish
got to
this, and this we're
cut
gonna
out.
Low key, I want to go back to the subject of Miami was not a super team, but we can do that later because
No,
I
yeah,
don't
but
understand.
Oh no, that was an argument that he said, but that was wrong.
That's
We'll
crazy.
get to that. But
That's
all right, so
crazy.
the last topic. Last
Miami
topic.
was
And we'll
super
come
team,
to
the
that.
Warriors,
We're gonna bring this
best
panel
team
back
in the
eventually. We're gonna argue all this again. 'Cause I love this. This is all.
Bring it back right after this. Right
The
after
last
this.
one.
Just-
Last
just-
one.
No.
It's-
Before you go, Phil, just this last thing. Has LeBron ever been first team All NBA defense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, never mind. We don't have to return to that then. Good.
Hey, you know, hold on. You know, I ain't gonna say that.
Nah, go
He
ahead.
has.
He's
No,
been wrong for a
has-
defensive
look,
player of the year a couple
you
of
can
times.
say what
in
you
my
want about
opinion.
LeBron.
I don't know about a
LeBron,
couple.
LeBron, there for a few years, was an elite defender. Definitely.
Okay.
Like one of the best
All
defenders
right.
in the world.
Great. All right,
So
we can move on.
back on to the last point. The best organization, best run organization you can pick any time when the organization was great. But when the organization is great, that you have to pick it best organization and can argue for that time period. So anytime with the Pistons, 8 years, anytime with Boston, anytime with Miami, it's not really based so much on longevity. It's based on the best results for that organization. Basically taking all that we've talked about, basically, and bringing it into. So basically, this is basically the best. This is the end all be all. This is the best team, in my opinion. So everything is in factor here. Player development, drafts, results, coaches, players, what they were doing, how they're able to get those players, how they were not able to get those players, making the hard decisions, making the best decisions for their team. Everything is on play here. So Dap, I'll start with you.
So you want me to say the best team of all time, basically?
The best organization of the last 25 years in the East. The best organization in the East of the last 23 years.
He did
Best
throw a team
organization.
in there that would throw you off that. So I ain't mad at you.
Best organization from the Eastern Conference since the last 20
From the
years.
Eastern Conference of the last since Jordan. Yeah.
Since
Best
Jordan.
organization.
Damn, man, I just feel like I keep picking Miami, bro.
Also, real quick, to answer that, Josh, he's been 5-time all defense, first team.
Should be more.
If you get a chance,
It should be, but he's like, but Kawhi has stuck a lot from him, in my opinion. I think.
Sure.
I ain't gonna lie, I missed all of those news cycles.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was from 2009 to 2013.
That was
Yeah,
my peak. My peak hating.
Mike
years.
Brown made him into a good defender. Eric Spoelstra made him into a great defender.
They're a great defense.
No, and me personally, I feel like he stopped playing elite defense once he left Miami.
Yes.
Oh,
he did.
facts.
Oh yeah. Like that series that Kevin Durant proved he was the best player in the world. There's a play there. LeBron coasts out on him. He slips, and I'm just like, what the fuck happened?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, I remember that. I remember
slips,
that.
and I'm like, what the hell happened to you? Because you would have locked him down 4 years ago. Because he did.
I
In
remember
that
that.
finals against the Thunder.
Yeah,
4 years ago, he
okay.
would have locked his ass down. Nah,
Yeah,
he
King
let
was
him
to that.
drive past him like he was shit. Like it was
But yeah,
ridiculous.
back to the subject though. But yeah,
But you were saying that you go first on this one.
So I'm gonna be cliche. I have to say Miami, man, because one, I think we're like one of the more newer teams in the Eastern Conference, and just the success we've had the last years. Like Phil said it, like as a football state or whatever you want to call Florida, we developed into a basketball team, and each year, like we know as basketball fans that we actually have a chance to contend. And just seeing like how when people come to Miami, man, we get the best out of players. LeBron came, he learned how to win. We got D Wade over here, who was just a born natural winner. We got Shaq. We're able to get Chris Bosh. We're able to go to the finals like 2 times in the last 5 years. I just think Miami does a great job picking their guys and having their team culture and just, playing competitive basketball. I know you guys hear a lot about some guys loving the game of basketball versus just making the money. And it seems like the people in Miami, like they come out every day to play. Like we made it to the finals with like undrafted players, bro. Like we're really playing Denver with like people who don't even start for real.
With J. Cole's buddy.
Yeah, Caleb Martin, so I just think Miami's done a fantastic job, bro. Because when you think about it as a business, it's like, okay, we're not competing for championships, but you couldn't tell us that as fans. Every year we're competing, every year we're in the playoffs, every year we feel like we have a shot and we have like decent players, I think Miami's been the best in the last 20 years in the East, man. Boston, like I said before, they should have had a championship since 07, 08. If you give a team that tandem that they have of Brown and Tatum, another team would have won by now.
the amount of time I only have one championship is crazy. Like the amount of time that they've had overall, only to have one championship has been ridiculous to me.
Yeah, and they've had a lot of first round, like top 10 picks in the last 10 years, bro. They've had to draft capital. So it's just crazy that they really can't win a championship, especially when we're talking about the East being so weak. Like
that was that. Anyways,
The East has been top heavy.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Okay.
Right.
I'm just saying that compared to the West, it's like, hey, after you beat 1 or 2 teams, you can make it out. And LeBron been gone for a few years. That was the main person to beat. But that's all I got to say about that, though. I'll say mine.
Right. Nick, what's your opinion?
I am going to go I understand that point when he brings up Miami. I feel culturally they might be the best organization, but I'm going to come from it a little different. I'm going to have to say it's Boston, just because Boston has set itself up for success and just the history and alone of what that organization has done and has. So we'll go back to when they started making all the trades, and we'll go back to the KG era, right? When they had KG for those 3 years. I really feel like that's what set them up, right? Then Danny Ainge became the GM. I feel like they've made a lot of shrewd moves to put themselves in relevance and to make themselves stay consistent and still have talent. Say what you want. They have had drafts. Some of their picks have hit, some of them haven't. And then if you want to also bring in coaching, you could say Miami, because they've had Spoelstra for the past almost 20 years or however long it's been.
They've had Spoelstra and Riley for the past 20 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a hard knock, right? But I feel like Boston has gone through changes, but yet has still stayed consistent in the type of basketball that has still been played, if that makes sense. I feel like they've transitioned better than a lot of other teams had. Whereas, like, yes, Miami was making playoffs, but let's be honest, you guys were in the bottom half of the playoffs those particular years. The transition didn't always look the best as far as wins were concerned, right? I feel like that could be said differently for Boston. Boston, once they transitioned from the big three, I feel like their transition was a little bit easier than them getting Tatum. And that comes to their shrewd moves with the Isaiah Thomas trade. You may not like that, but from an organizational standpoint, from a head standpoint, that was phenomenal business management. They used IT up as much as they could, and they sold them at the highest price. That is a shrewd business move. I mean, hey, you can
I have to give you that point.
You can hate it, but you have to respect it when you think about it.
No, you're right. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
The way they set up their future was ridiculously phenomenal after that. Now,
one counterpoint to the Isaiah Thomas one, but also that move, because of that move, other players don't want to go to the Celtics. AD didn't want to go to the Celtics. Dame don't want to go to the Celtics.
Because Dame claims that he wanted to be important forever, and we realize that's not true.
That's for sure. No. But specifically AD, like they asked AD dad about going to Bucks. He was like, "Fuck no!" You see what they did to Isaiah Thomas?
That's true. They did say that.
Point where anybody could have traded for AD, but because he wasn't going to sign the extension, they didn't trade for him.
Well, now if you want me to knock my own pick is that I feel like Boston is very callous in their business decisions. I feel like it's strictly a corporation. They run it. I feel like Miami has maybe a little bit more heart in it than other organizations do. So that's why Miami's my number 2. But when I sit back and think about the basketball moves, just from a standpoint of being able to stockpile picks for as long as they did, I have to give that to Boston. And then you want to go through their history for however long, they are one of the greatest teams in the NBA throughout history in general. They have a winning history. They have a winning culture. Now, I'm talking about history. I'm not necessarily talking about the talent that they have right now, but what they've set up for right now, you can't deny is maybe great's not the right word, but it is loaded. You know what I mean? And then if you want to go into coaching, yes, do you know what the thing that Boston, in my opinion, the one thing that they're lacking on that team specifically, just from a team member standpoint, is they lack leadership. I think you got Tatum and you got Brown, who are 2 fantastic players. I don't think they are default leaders in the standpoint that they rally everybody around them.
They just traded.
True.
They just traded. You're right. They just traded their leader.
They just traded
Smart.
They just traded their leader, right?
They just traded
Smart.
Yeah, but that's also another thing. Like Marcus Smart is your best leader. I mean, I don't know the guy personally, but
he is. Him and Horford.
Right? So what I think is they lack leadership. Now, if you want to go into coaching, I think they've had phenomenal coaches in the standpoints of X and O's. Maybe not necessarily phenomenal coaching in the standpoint of bringing the best out of players, but you can't deny that you lost coaching in Doc Rivers. A few years later, you get Brad Stevens. And then after Brad Stevens, you get Ime Udoka, right? And then after that, you've got this guy. Like there's something to be said. Yeah, there's something to be said for consistency. That's an organization setting up and having contingency plans in place. That's what it is. Boston, for me right now, their contingency plan game is superior. Like they always seem to have something else next, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I understand.
Yeah, that's
all right, let's go with you, Jay.
I have to go with Miami for these reasons. The loyalty they show to their players, and also like whenever the Miami Heat are down, it never takes long for them to get back up.
That's fair.
Like it's either like one season you miss the playoffs, we're going to be back in it next season. You can see that in the record. I think you can see that in the records if I'm not mistaken. I think there's a couple of seasons. Oh, there's a couple of seasons where they miss the playoffs consecutively. If I'm not,
Miami hasn't missed the playoffs consecutively since before Dwayne Wade was there.
Okay, so like even if they have a season, it never compounds.
Mm-hmm.
It never is like, oh, we're going to go for multiple lottery picks and and get that. It's never like that. It's always going to be, all right, we got this one down season. We're going to bounce back and win the chip next season. They always have the belief that they're going to win the chip. And it's been like that for the past
20 years.
I don't want to give them 20 years because there was a period there before LeBron came to Miami where it was like, we just got to get to the playoffs type of thing. We got Dwayne. We got the best. We probably have the best player in the NBA.
So
but
13 then.
we have enough. But
Then you're right. 13 years then. Like
so
that.
I would say that. But yeah, it's Miami to me, and I think a runner up for me would be just to get the best out of your players. I want to say Indiana.
Really?
Now he's hating.
Really? That's not something I thought was going to
happen.
Explain.
Please, you gotta have to explain that point.
Explain.
Do you remember the team where they have Roy Hibbert, David West, Danny Granger, Paul?
Yeah,
George?
we all remember that team.
That the one that got skunked by y'all.
It went to 7 though. It didn't get stomped, but like you didn't really think like I was never going to see the Indiana Pacers getting us past that point. And
We're talking about the organization, though. We're not talking about a season.
I'm talking about organization. They all right.
There were 2 or 3
No,
seasons in which
what he's saying, he's talking, like,
I
there were
never think of Indiana
3
Pacers
seasons in there. Basically, the Pacers ended up being Miami's biggest competitor in the East.
Yes.
During that period. That's what he's talking about.
They matched up.
That is an organizational thing. Larry Bird ran that organization. The Pacers actually have had a.
We could argue that if it wasn't for the disaster in the Palace or whatever they call that thing,
Malice
in the Palace, they could have won a championship.
Oh wow, I never thought about that. There's a universe where
It's
that probably
true.
happened.
He's absolutely right.
They probably do.
Indiana was the best team in the NBA going into that game. They really were. The 04 team.
We might be talking about a different Indiana Pacers for like they kind of
That's crazy.
Instead of Boston being the one that ended the Detroit dynasty for real, it could have been the Pacers.
It could have been. But I just think about, when you say that, I think about an organization's longevity. And it's like, yes, they had those 5 years with Larry Bird running the organization where it was really good, but it's like, and then you could say the Malice in the Palace saga, that was great. But after that, what do you have with Indiana?
Victor Oladipo.
Roy Hibbert.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just came to mind. Like, I don't want to like giving it to Boston because look how little you've done with what you had. You literally had Kyrie.
I don't count that, but yeah.
What's that white boy name that was really good?
Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, Gordon Hayward. That was.
Damn, they did have Gordon Hayward.
They had a squad with Kyrie left.
Well, they had a hurt Gordon Hayward all his whole.
He was never.
That's bad management.
Don't worry. I was playing this all in my.
That's a part of the organization, right?
I mean, yeah, you can say
how you treat their.
You could say that, but they also bounce back from all of that to still be consistent.
And still not win enough championships.
That's fine. That's what I'm not saying. I did not say my pick didn't have holes in it, because it did. But, like, I think about consistency.
I will give you
There's
this.
something to be said for consistency.
There's no perfect pick in the East. That's why this is so compelling to me.
I want to give Cleveland like a little bit of love because they did swallow their pride and let LeBron come back.
That ain't him swallowing his pride. That's him shutting his mouth.
You could have been a dick about it. Like, yo, I'm not letting this
I'm
gonna
be like, no, LeBron.
I'm gonna give Cleveland love because of the moves area to pull off, giving up Wiggins and whoever the fuck Anthony Bennett, whoever the hell that he was, able to get love and be able to make the most out of that team and everything. But they made some shrewd decisions, but also they made some really stupid ones. I think that's why they're not in a conversation with Boston and Miami.
Let's be honest. Cleveland would get more love if LeBron and the owner didn't make it so clear that he was a fucking idiot and that he was a racist.
The owner treated him as if he was a slave.
I ain't gonna lie. Like, I didn't surprise LeBron went back. I'm surprised he went back after that fucking letter that dude wrote. I was like,
That
wow,
shit.
really
That
went back.
shit, boy.
Wow. But
Like there's contingencies on him going back. It was like, hey, we're never going to talk. Let's just that be clear. I'm coming back to Cleveland, not for you. That's how I see LeBron James going back.
no,
He's like, I'm not going back for you. I'm going back because the people here deserve more than what you've been giving them.
100%.
So true. So true. All right, Josh, how about you?
Well, in my best Jackie McMullen impression, I think it's the Celtics, and this is the reason why. We've been talking about different attributes of organizations and who does it well or does it not as good. I think the Celtics do everything fairly well, and they do a number of things excellently well. So one of the things that we've been talking about is with trading and acquiring players. Now, that comes with the downside of you have a situation with IT or you have a situation with Kyrie. How are you able to flip that and make the most of it? Or you have a situation where you have two superstars like KG and Paul Pierce who have done a 1-year championship. But you know what? You will always be a part of Celtics. And that's the thing that you understand living here is that the people will always appreciate what you've done for them, but business is business. So we're going to trade you to Brooklyn and get a number of picks over the next 4 or 5 years that are going to continue the work that we've been doing, which translated into JTJB, Marcus Smart, all the players that we have now. As far as development of those players, we could start with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. We could talk about Rondo. We could talk about Marcus Smart. I don't think people look at Marcus Smart now. Marcus Smart, I never thought Marcus Smart would be able to develop a shot, but in the latter years, he was a very dependable player offensively for the Celtics in many different ways. He wasn't the primary one, but if the ball was thrown his way,
I didn't think he'd become as good of a distributor as he actually ended up becoming, but I still don't really like his game. But
and who would have thought that he would have been the starting point guard in a championship, Boston Celtics champion? It wasn't Kyrie. It wasn't Kemba Walker. It wasn't all the other. It wasn't IT.
I mean, a championship, a finals team. That's what you mean.
A finals team. They made a championship. Made a championship run. Oh, that's a common phrase. You make a championship run, you don't win it. But who would have thought it would have been Marcus Smart out of all people? So I think that speaks a lot to the organization. I hear a lot about Boston has had so much, but they've done so little with it. I understand, and especially in a weaker East. But again, if we're gonna look at it, if like let's say we're comparing it with Miami, which seems to be everybody's favorite. Miami has only won 3. 2 of them have been with Shaq, or 2 of them been with LeBron, one's been with Shaq and D Wade. And so for me, I'm not saying that it's illegitimate. I'm saying there's been significant help in order to make those things a reality. Boston has won. They had significant help to do it. It's going to take significant help for them to get back over that hump. So I don't think that they don't have the number of championships negates the fact that they're a really well-run organization that does a lot of things very well, including drafting, acquiring players, developing those players, and coaching. That's one of the biggest things. You have Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers is your coach. You won a championship with him. You then get Brad Stevens, and you hardly miss a beat. I feel like there was only one off year, and that was probably the first year with Brad Stevens. He gets that team under his wing. They're not able to get over the top, and so you make a quick switch, and you go to Ime Udoka, who helps them get over the top a little bit closer over the top. But then, again, they curse themselves. They stomp on their own feet and let go of Ime Udoka. You get Joe Mazzulla, who's bumping his head along the way, but they still make it to one game away from an NBA Finals run, which they probably would have been a lot more competitive against the Denver Nuggets. So they're right there. And an organization that can consistently be right there is one that I think really is the superior one in my view. And so that's why I'm giving it to the Celtics.
All right, Ajax, the final point.
Got here to the Heat, of course. I understand the Celtics or whatever like that, and like even with like my criticism of the Celtics, I know it's more of an NBA thing, but being that like I can't like witness it like more firsthand, like following situations, I just really don't like how they do business. It's more of the NBA though. Like it's been 2 instances like the past like 6 years they've told players, yeah, you're hurt, but you can't get more injured. And the 2 times they've had to get surgeries in the offseason with Isaiah Thomas and Robert Williams. And I really don't like that shit. I really
happened
don't.
with Kimba as well.
Yeah, I really don't like. Oh, even with Kimba, I really don't like that shit. So it's like that's more of an NBA thing. All NBA teams do this type of thing, but like, they're so nasty with how they do it. Nasty. I just really hate it. And then with the Heat, with us, like, especially like the last 4 years, with how we've just done more with less, and like all our undrafted guys. I know that's like a narrative with us, but that shit's serious. Having multiple undrafted players starting, than having another multiple being your rotation and you still being productive without like all the draft picks and draft capital that the Celtics have had and still be on like the same level as them. It just puts them ahead for me. And then another thing, I don't remember. I don't know if the Celtics like tried to tank a couple years. I'm not really sure because I wasn't really paying attention to them. But even when the Heat like tried to tank, we couldn't do it because that's not our culture.
The Celtics never tried to tank. It was just that they would trade a player and get a bunch of capital for it.
Not for sure. That's what I'm like.
Like the Celtics were able to get picks from the Nets.
Yeah,
that's why I'm not really.
They fleeced the Nets. That's how they got high draft picks.
Yeah, they were eating off that Nets trade for 3 seasons.
That's why I'm like low key. Like that's why I'm really like to call Danny Ainge like this great GM. I think he fleeced one team and kind of been eating off that shit ever since. Because I feel like there was a few trades he should have made to put all his chips into a basket that he didn't make. I feel like he should have got Paul George. I feel like he should have got Kawhi.
No, you're forgetting that what he did to get. Now again, it didn't end well, right? But that I thought that was
the Kyrie shit,
the Kyrie trade and the Gordon Hayward trade, in combination.
Well, no, they signed Gordon Hayward.
They signed Gordon Hayward.
I'm sorry. Yeah, they signed Gordon Hayward in combination with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That was gonna be a formidable opponent had things not.
I feel you, but even with that, you have all that talent and doesn't produce nothing. So what does that say about their culture and their environment that they had all that talent in the building and they couldn't do nothing with it?
Well, Gordon Hayward got injured the first game of the season against the Cavaliers, and Kyrie. So and then
I don't think that was all on Kyrie.
I'm not saying
had organizational issues after he left. They still had team chemistry problems after he left. So I don't think that's all on Kyrie being Kyrie.
Not to the degree that Kyrie brought a certain energy.
That was the narrative that was going on this season.
They went down 3-1 to the Heat, and they had a blow up inside the bubble. That's the year after Kyrie left.
But
they was throwing shit.
I see what you're saying. To me, the bubble was a crazy time for everybody. You're away from I feel like that's a lot. I think things would get exacerbated in the bubble because the bubble is the bubble and that, But I see what you're saying. But I don't.
It's like I just feel like it's just like the underachievement, the shrewd business tactics, and with all that shit, you have nothing to show for it except the championship that y'all milked to the end of the earth. So it's like
that is true, but
because like they're great run organization because it's like like they're always consistently on top, but it's just something like rotten inside. I feel like that just won't allow them to like really achieve something. Because even with last year in the finals, I thought the Boston was a better team.
Mm-hmm.
They were the better team. They have no leadership on that team.
And they fell short. And why is that? And why did they fell short? Like when it was time to show up, they did not show up. And there's something rotten in the organization to me, like my point of view. Because like even the years that LeBron was still in the East, they still had the most talented team in the East. I feel like they had the most talented team in the NBA a couple of them years too, and they didn't do nothing with it. But so
that comes down to team chemistry, though.
It does.
And I
But
think
is
that
an
very much
organizational
boils
thing.
down to leadership. I don't necessarily think that
Right.
always necessarily is put on the organization. Like the organization is set it up as much as they possibly can. That comes down to coaching and putting together just team chemistry. Now,
Yeah.
I do.
And that's
I can
part of
agree with
it,
you.
but
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that have set Miami's organization apart, but this is also as a Heat fan, I will say, is that there's no questions in their leadership. Like me and my dad talked about this. He asked me when I was at home, he's like, why I thought the Nets didn't work. I'll say it like this: the organization's a fucking mess. There's no design leadership
true.
there. And so it doesn't matter who you put on that team. And yeah, it doesn't help that Durant and Irving are not your traditional leaders either. It doesn't help.
Mhm.
But one thing that even when Miami didn't really have the traditional leaders during those years, they were supposed to tank. When they had Dion Waiters and Hassan Whiteside on that team, they got leadership from someone like Udonis Haslem. They got leadership from Eric Spoelstra. They got leadership from Pat Riley. So yeah, you can say that, but they were able to overachieve and do more with less because their leadership is in place. There's a straight line. So yeah, that's a part of there's coaching, that's part of team chemistry, but that's all. It all goes back to organization.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that for me, that's what knocks Boston for me is that there is some there. One, there's always been talk about this. And then also too, when they underachieve, there's always these excuses. Like when they went down 3-0 to Miami this past
It's
summer.
never
it's
just
like,
straight lost. It's never that.
Yeah,
It's never
never that. It's like,
It's never what?
they've been having chemistry.
It's never
they've been
like
having
we
chemistry
lost the
issues since
game. It's always something. Oh, we didn't try hard enough. Oh, we underestimated them. It's never we just lost. It's always something else. You know.
And then there's there's still issues from Ime Udoka being fired the way he was. There's still mistrust in the organization. There's that. There's this. There's
You
that.
don't like their excuses.
I don't. But yeah, I got you. But we're gonna get to it. I had a feeling it would come down to these two. So when it comes to that, so I will give these numbers, I guess, to kind of justify the decision I'm making. So since 2000, Miami is 19 games better overall than Boston. This is the year 2000 regular season record wise.
Wait, say it again.
In the playoffs,
Let's go.
overall record since I have it in front of me since 1999 2000. Miami is 19 games over 500 better than Boston as an organization. Wise. And then playoff wise, Miami has 12 more wins. So yes, we can talk about how Boston has been able to be, you can say more consistent over 20 years. They've been able to be more at the top. Miami has more wins than they have. So
that's
for
fair.
me, so to being fair, because I thought it ended up coming like that. That's why I thought. So I have to give 5 points to Miami on this one.
Yeah,
I
you
gotta
have
give the
to
4 to Boston.
go by the facts. Go by the facts.
I'm going by the facts on that one. Now, I think there are great arguments because I do think Boston is actually a very well-run organization, but I do think when it comes down to those pressure moments, Miami has been able to, because of Miami's structure, because they do it differently than Boston, Miami's been able to stay together a little bit more and get through those tough moments and pull through where Boston should, but they can't because there's something wrong. There's something wrong organizationally wise. So I'll give the edge to Miami on that one. They get 5 points. Boston gets 4, and 4-3. I know that Indiana was mentioned here as the third. I don't know if y'all want to really go with that one, but I
let's go with Orlando.
I would go with
I would
that
give it
one
more to
Philadelphia
Detroit.
year or
Honestly, I think
if we had to pick a third,
I'll
gotta
give
be
it to
the
Joe Dumars in Detroit. That's me, but
I can't even say the Cavs because like every single
it has
like
to be
every-
Cleveland. Yeah, Austin's right, and you have to give it to the Cavs.
yeah. All right, then we give it to Cleveland on the third one then. So all right.
Indiana.
ultimately.
But you know what? The thing is, though, Julian made a really good point about them, though. Like they were able, like Indiana was a well-run organization. Just I don't think it belongs in the upper echelon with what Miami and Boston were able to do. But
yeah,
I do like that they were mentioned.
I think they're a tier below. You know.
Yeah, I do like that they were mentioned because Indiana did a lot of good things, and that's the reason why
because they have been to the finals. Yeah, because they definitely have been to the finals since like Jordan left. They definitely been there. I think that was like in like 2000, but still went there.
Yeah, 2000. They were the first team to lose to that Lakers dynasty. All right, so final tally, guys. It's 22 points for Miami, 16 points for Boston, 14 points for Cleveland, 8 points for Detroit, and no one else got any points. So were there any other final points? Dad, did you want to add anything? No, we were good. Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate y'all coming on the podcast and have to. This is one. I love this conversation that we had here. This was awesome. This was something I was really looking forward to. You know, I know, like, you know, people could say that it was biased and it was that, and people don't think that is cool. I understand, like, but in the end,
it's a Miami sports.
I do find it funny.
It was ended up being decided by
I tried, you know.
That
But in the end, it was decided by what we're facts.
4 out of the 6 of us are Miami fans.
That's true. And that's why I was hoping Garland was going to be here because I wanted more balance. I wanted Detroit to be mentioned more because Detroit's run is probably the best out of these 4, like I said. But
Best one.
Beckett's gonna. Like I said, Detroit's 8-year run was, like I said, that's why they won the first one. I wanted Detroit
That was so long ago, though.
I know, but it's still, they were talking about 2000. It's a 20-year thing. We can't just talk about the last 13. We have to talk about all of them. And we did.
Yeah, but the last 13 have been so bad. And for me, it makes it null and void what they did the first 8.
Yeah, they have.
Well, ultimately,
but
this conversation.
That's why I feel like Miami and Boston are going to be head and shoulders above the rest of the East because they're the only ones been able to stay relevant. But I still want to have a conversation because one, it's an interesting conversation. Basketball in general, like one, especially in the East, you have to take down Titans. Basically, Detroit was the first Titan that had to be taken down for a lot of these teams. Miami doesn't get that first championship unless they beat Detroit. Same thing for that Boston team. They had to beat Detroit. Cleveland had to beat Detroit as well to get to their finals run before, you know, LeBron left.
That's a good point.
So that Detroit team was a big obstacle. And I think people forget about that. I wanted to make sure we talk about it. But that is going to be it for today. Thank y'all so much for coming in. For Josh Salter, Nicholas Burnett, Ajax, Dat, Jay, thank y'all so much. Hopefully this is going to be our first YouTube one. So we're really hoping to see you guys.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Everything. Like we said, we're trying to get this money. And then the next one for us will probably be the college football playoff preview. College football season preview. Hopefully. We'll see what happens. But we'll let y'all know,
I can't wait. Football is back, baby.
I'm excited for that conversation.
Yeah. So, and I hopefully we can bring a couple of these guys back so we can talk about it again. But love you guys. Thank you so much for coming.
Florida State.
45-3.
Yeah, we'll see y'all next time.
It was great
talking.
You
win in the ACC this year.